This is a podcast on behalf of the Musculoskeletal Partners Network, and it's the beginning of a conversation that we plan to have starting now and over a number of weeks as we hopefully start to get back to normal business. So my name's Andrew Walton. I'm a physio by background. I am the chair of Musculoskeletal Partners Network. I'm also executive chair of Connect Health. A little bit about them. 90% of the business is delivering to the NHS, 10% is delivering to corporates. In the NHS, we have been delivering remote consultations as part of our blend of services for about 20 years, and we do about 200,000 remote consultations a year. So I'm going to bring a bit of that "we've been there and done it" t-shirt with regard to remote. And then I'll let my colleague on the call introduce herself as well.
Hi, my name's Joanne Matthews. I'm CEO and founder of 10 Health and Fitness. We're a wellness and fitness company, and we bridge the gap between the medical sector and the generic fitness market. We offer physiotherapy and clinical exercise prescription. So at the clinical end, that's our physio and clinical business. But at the other end, we have our fitness or generic fitness business. We're best known, I suppose, for pioneering dynamic reform of Pilates in the UK. We have 9 locations in London and 3 more in the pipeline, though they're currently on hold. And 50% of my business is physio, and it's all private practice at the moment.
So we've been hearing on the MSK members calls how business has tailed off and how people are adapting. What are you doing at 10, John?
So I think, like many people, this is kind of a complete minefield to navigate initially. So we're operating in what I've called the kind of the new normal. We, from the lockdown, the kind of government imposed lockdown, we very quickly needed to determine kind of the scale, the pace and the depth of the action that we needed to do. And as MSK Partners Network stated earlier today, we've seen a 90% reduction in our physio business, or in our business in general. And so I think from mothballing and furloughing of the initial stages, I think we've kind of been looking at everything from near cash planning, what that means in terms of how much money we've got in the bank, what business loans are available to us, how we work with HMRC, what our payroll considerations are. I think the most fundamental thing that we've done is actually having to pivot our business. So we're traditionally bricks and mortar. We've now taken our business online.
What's the demand been like for that?
So we've pivoted 80% of our, we've furloughed 80% of our staff. So we've currently got about 6 physios working, and they have really, really good consultants lists at the moment. So we're seeing sort of 45 consultations a week per clinician.
So that's 250, 60, 70, whatever. And how many were you doing before then? What percentage drop has there been?
Well, we've gone down to 6 physios from, I think we've got 50 in total in our business.
Okay. So it's around that 90% drop, isn't it?
Exactly.
And how are patients and staff sort of getting on with it? Is it
So I think
acceptable?
The interesting thing is we felt that for continuity for our clients, it was really important that we kept the dialogue going. So our existing client base, also for consultants are still working, not all of them, but a lot of them are still working, and they need to be able to refer on their clients. So we felt it was really important that we supported both the clients and the consultants, and looked to see that if we could actually deliver relevant and expert consultations online. It's something we've never done before, and so it was like, well, let's give it a go and see. And so far, it's working well.
Do you think the demand will pick up for remote?
I think we're lucky, because I think a lot of the guys that are working, the physios working, are very established in our business. I think if you've got less established physios, whilst they're building their own private practice within your practice, it's probably quite a lot harder. We've got a very large client base because we have our fitness business. So we have 40,000 clients that we communicate with regularly. So we've just upped the communication and the information, and that's been driving people who may not have come to us for physio before, maybe come to us for Pilates, but have actually, okay, no, I need to see somebody. I know 10, I'll come and try out their physio online. I think
Sorry, are you finished?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, through the partners network and the conversations with other NHS providers and other private practice, we, of course, the incidence of musculoskeletal problems is the same as it was before. In fact, our general feeling in all sectors and all corners of the population is that incidence is likely to be rising because of the change in activity that people are having. People who were physical before are now deconditioning, and when they go back to work, they'll start to get more musculoskeletal problems. There's lots of people going mad exercising who weren't exercising before or are doing more, who are getting problems. And then there's the psychosocial aspects which will feed itself into increased MSK demand. The NHS has pretty much turned off the tap on MSK services. So the incidence is greater. The supply to sort them out is much less because, of course, the NHS is the biggest provider of MSK care. So, and with a long background in remote care, with thousands and thousands and thousands of very satisfied patients, lots of staff who, as long as it's part of a blend in what they do, I think if you overload them with too many hours a week on virtual consultations, it's not what they signed up for. Certainly in the medium term, I'm sure that would be the case. But we've got lots of happy patients, we've got lots of happy staff who in the NHS, not just in our organisation, but across the NHS, who do this kind of stuff. So I think there's a real opportunity for private practice. The difficulty, of course, is getting to the patients. But if you've got 40,000 people on your database,
yeah, so we're slightly untypical because we are the kind of health and fitness. So we're kind of fortunate in that respect. I think the interesting dynamic is going to be, we are a private practice and not everybody can afford to go to private practice, and the NHS has a great role and does play a great role in that. But I think what I'm considering at the moment, and I'm very new to this, is that online will enable us to do a breadth and depth of clinic that we weren't able to do before. So we'll be able to access people at potentially lower price points, shorter durations, that sort of thing, if it's self-pay. But if the insurance companies continue to support online consultations, then I think that will open up the wider market as well.
I think we used to have sort of 5 private practices which were closed about 6-7 years ago, but we always talked about why don't we bring remote consultations into the private space? If they do work for patients and for staff, why wouldn't you? Because and our premise was that it really lowers the access point for more people. Therefore, so if the incidence of MSK problems in the UK is 10 million people at any one time, how many people are finding themselves in the hands of an MSK practitioner? Well, less than 1 million. So we're only scratching the surface. So what is it that the 9 million is stopping the 9 million accessing it, even in the NHS where there's no cost? And I think it's a mixture of things, but there's one of it is cost and time. So you can make calls. We do it in the NHS. Typically, it's a 20-minute call. A reasonable proportion, 20 to 30% of patients will be discharged at that point. And I think it's a real opportunity for private practice to change the model going forwards to having a blend of get more people in, discharge more people after one call, but for those who do need face-to-face, the built trust with you and your practice, therefore you'll get new business.
I agree. I think I think this is why I'm kind of optimistic coming out of this, because at the moment, it does seem very, very difficult for people, and a lot of people are concerned about their cash flow, how they're going to manage their teams, their staff, all of that sort of stuff. But actually, I think there may be a big opportunity for everybody after this in terms of addressing an online opportunity.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that's making me think this at the moment, not because sheer volume of people that need it, but also client confidence. I think certainly in the age group of clients that we tend to deal with, I doubt that they'll come rushing back into a bricks and mortar facility. And if they do, they're going to want extra precautions. Will the physios be wearing protective clothing? Are there going to be so many people in the building at the time? And I think, having access to an online consultation, just to sense check something maybe in the first place, to go, no, you do need to come in and you'll be safe coming in. I think it's a really important option. And it should run in parallel to, as you're scaling up your bricks and mortar business, the online business should be supporting you.
Yeah.
And I like your word blend. I think that's a really nice way of looking at it.
And so everybody's going to do it in the short term. 10, and from what you're saying, 10 are going to do it in the medium term because some people won't want to come into face-to-face. Will in the long term, you'll do it as well, presumably?
Well, I think what I'm also seeing, which has been a really interesting part of this, is I think our workforce will want to work differently. And so, for example, the people that are working at 10 at the moment have all opted to do a 4-day week, even though we'll pay full salary if they did 5. So I think it's really interesting to see that I think we'll take this time to reappraise how we're working, have some time at home. Different environments people are working in as well aren't making it conducive to a 5-day week. But I think we'll find our whole workforce will have had time to reappraise and go, do you know what? I think I could do a couple of days from home, and maybe there'll be my days I do online consultations.
Yeah.
So I think as a business owner, we need to be thinking about what our workforce wants, an agile workforce. What will that look like? How will that impact our pace of growth and how we come out of this? Our client base, how are they feeling? What do they want? Where's their confidence levels? Our insurers, they need to support us. They absolutely need to support us.
Yeah.
And our consultants, we can't ignore them either. How are they doing? What do they need? How can we support each other?
Yeah. I would urge everybody because we've done it for so long. We're very confident in doing it. I think for individual staff, we have to support them a lot and build them up to get to a level of confidence themselves to be able to do it well and to know when they should discharge people, when they need to bring them in. But
you have a training program.
Sorry.
Do you operate a training program?
Yeah, we do. And I've talked about this NHS offer we put in. We've got an online training program, videos and bits and pieces for people to be able to develop the skills and confidence. But we were part of our offer to do it on a wider basis for the NHS is we would use the private practice latent workforce, those who are furloughed or on haven't got much on their plate at the moment, that we would use them. And I was just talking to a colleague the other day who would be responsible for selecting people, because we need a certain element of quality assurance in it to get the right people. But it's going to be a bit about being clear about what our expectations are of PhysioLine course, of remote consultations, what you can and what you can't do. The expectations have to be right both for the patient and for the individual member of staff. Anyway, so we're remarking that actually coming from private practice is probably a bigger journey to come to doing remote successfully than it is perhaps if you've been working in the NHS. That's a debate for later on. We didn't want to make this a long call, did we, Joanne? And we're already 15 minutes in and only just warming up. So I'm going to finish with one question for you in private practice, and maybe I'll try and answer it myself, is when do you think the first phase ends and recovery phase starts, and how long do you think the recovery phase will last, i.e. the bit between when we're allowed to go back into our clinics and then when we'll be arrive at the new normal?
Oh, I mean, that's kind of the $1 million question, isn't it? I suppose currently I'm in what I call my return planning phase. So what is it going to look like when we do open our doors? And I'm hoping it's going to be sometime in June, that it might not happen. And I think getting a steer on what that would look like is also dependent on the government initiatives, what they're running and how much they're going to still invest. And then it's kind of reimagining 10, what's our next normal going to be like? It's really understanding consumer confidence. I think this could go for a year. I think we could have a slow paced growth for a year. And there is a risk potentially that next December, January, we have a different, COVID's back. Don't know. It hasn't gone away.
So consumer confidence is the key phrase in that. Then it doesn't matter what the government say; it's people's behaviour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And just the consensus from the Partners Network conversations has been people are thinking about June, but they're also trying to decide whether they're being optimistic or not. I don't think anybody would say it's going to be before that. Anyway, thanks very much, Joanne, for your time. So for all of us, the Partners Network is there to try and support us. The more members we've got, the more influence we're likely to be able to have. But I think the main thing that people are getting out of these conversations is just that sort of sense of community, that there's a bunch of people, a big bunch of people, a growing bunch of people who are in this, in the same boat. Nobody's got a monopoly on good ideas. So the idea is shared amongst the group. People are always taking something away. And I think that's why we're growing. So, and this podcast today is the beginning of us thinking out loud in that shared community about what the future is going to look like. And I can't imagine anybody in private practice not wanting to take up the offer of joining in that. So if you're listening and you think it's useful and you're not a member, just look on the website, MSK Partners Network website, email inquiries, send £1, and then you'll get all this content. And we should be growing at a faster rate than we are. We've got 70 members up from 10 in about 4 weeks ago. So we are growing very quickly, but we should have hundreds of members because we're here to try and support. So share this information with other practices in your area so we start to grow and have more influence. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Hope you found it useful and hope to be talking to you soon. Thanks, Joanne.
Bye. Thank you.